Let me tell you something. When it's dark and I'm all alone and I'm scared or freaked out or whatever, I always think, what would Buffy do?
How many versions of you exist right now? Is there work you, family you, or what about the real you that you only let out when the door is locked? Today, we're talking about the heavy costs of compartmentalizing your life. I'm Angela, and this is What Would Buffy Do? Today, we're watching Buffy try to wear a mask that doesn't fit anymore in Welcome to the Hellmouth. In the pilot episode, we see Buffy has just arrived at Sunnydale. And at this point, she's desperate for a clean slate. She doesn't want to be the Slayer any longer. She wants to regain the life that she had where she was just a normal girl, where she was popular and just a cheerleader. Essentially, she wants to be Cordelia adjacent. But throughout the episode, we watch her struggle to keep her Slayer identity a secret, and it makes us ask ourselves, what parts of us are we shrinking just to fit in? Right at the beginning, we see how she tries to bond with Cordelia, and I think it's because she sees Cordy as the safe haven that she knew, and all of her friends back at Henry were very similar. So she tries to maintain that old personality in order to fit in with Cordy immediately. But meanwhile, she accidentally bonds with both Willow and Xander, which I honestly think is more true to her real self, especially after becoming the Slayer and recognizing there's more to life than just superficial bullshit. But once the dead body falls out of the locker, that's really the moment her secret life forces its way into her public life. And that's the turning point of the episode. For her, the clash of that completely throws off the mission of maintaining a normal life. And that's when she storms into the library and confronts Giles about vampires and the supernatural. She even says, "No, I'm retired. I don't want to do this. I'm done." But she can't run away from it, unfortunately. It is her destiny, and she is the Slayer. So the rest of the episode essentially forces her hand, and we see that normal life slip away. And unfortunately, Cordelia sees the weird and immediately kind of rejects her from the cool kid club. In that moment, though, Buffy really doesn't recognize the sting of that. Instead, she is pursuing the important role of protecting Willow from a vampire. And that choice sets the tone for the entire show. She's no longer Buffy from LA, the popular girl or the cheerleader. She's Buffy the Vampire Slayer, her true self. What I find interesting about the pilot episode is that the metaphor here doesn't necessarily coincide with the quote unquote monsters of the episode. Darla, Luke, even the master rising from the buried church, they're not really the ones that I find to be the villains of this episode. And as much as I love Joyce and Principal Flutie, I think they are the villains of Buffy's identity crisis, of always striving to be normal. Now, I'm not saying they're inherently bad or that they treat Buffy poorly, but I do think they're representing social norms. They're the ones telling Buffy that she'll be happy if she represses the weird part of her and acts normal. And also, they'll be happy. They don't want her rocking the boat or burning down school gyms. But essentially, they're asking her to shrink. And while they ultimately aren't privy to why she made the choices she did, they are unknowingly asking her to wear a mask and hide her true self, which I think a lot of us can relate to. So, like many of us have felt, Buffy was under immense pressure to adhere to social norms. And I think that's why she immediately gravitates towards Cordelia. She knows how to play the popularity game, she speaks the language, and she even passed Cordy's coolness factor test. But here's the glitch: being the Slayer changed her empathy. She watches Cordelia mock Willow, and she can't laugh anymore. As we approach the end of the episode, we get a glimpse of the friendship developing between Buffy, Xander, and Willow. And unlike everyone else she encounters, she doesn't have to hide any part of herself because around them, she can take off the mask. So, for me, the key takeaway is that acting as who your friends or society wants you to be isn't fair to your true self. Besides, once you've seen the vampires, aka experienced trauma or growth or had an awakening, the mask eventually won't stick. Watching Buffy bond with Cordelia in the beginning, especially as she stands idly by while Cordy makes ignorant remarks towards Willow, it hurts to watch because she's trying to force herself to fit in. She's editing out the Slayer part just to survive the first day of school. And I know that look because I wore it for a long time, probably until my late 20s, honestly. I had a lot of different friend groups that never mixed or mingled with one another. They were very much segregated. I would have like the cool kid friend group. I'd have my sister's friends group. I would have a work friend group that especially were older than me. I had some girlfriends, but being a tomboy, I very much had my guy friend group. And then I had my secret online kind of geeky Buffy group. And I carefully curated which version of Angela they got to see because each group had a different, like, cool factor dynamic. And I wanted to fit in. I did not want to be seen as weird or odd. I did not want to be made fun of. I know a lot of the people I hung out with would very much consider me a nerd, and especially if they knew the extent of my Buffy love, or I guess rather obsession. At that time, I was really into role playing on the chat rooms. We had chat rooms back on the old internets of AOL, and we would role play in the Crypt and the Bronze, and I can't remember the other chat room that there was a few of them, but it was a lot of fun, and I did it in secrecy. I don't think I told a single soul about that until I was like 26 years old because I felt so nerdy. Um, but that's the sad thing about it. I mean, I wouldn't mention the things I actually loved because I was terrified of being seen as weird or a nerd or whatever. And I wanted to be Cordelia adjacent. I wanted to fit in. If I was hanging out with my guy friends, we talked cars, we worked on cars, uh, we would pull pranks and whatever silly guy stuff it was. If I was hanging out with work friends that were a lot older than me, we were drinking, playing drinking games. That was the thing. That was the cool thing in that group. When I was with my sister's friends, I was basically just literally doing anything and everything they wanted because I just wanted to be included. Um, and if I was hanging out with my girlfriends, it was a whole different me that I had to kind of pretend to be into all the girly things. I can appreciate some girly stuff and whatnot, but the nails and all these things I really didn't care about, but they did. And if I wanted to be a part of that group, I had to pretend. And I guess, honestly, as I mentioned earlier, it wasn't until my late 20s that I became comfortable and confident in my own skin. I realized that people didn't know the real me, they didn't know all of me. And at that point, I kind of said, fuck it. I'm going to just be myself. And if they like it, great. If they don't, no worries. See you later. It was really hard to do, especially after playing a dissected version of me for so long. It was exhausting to keep track of which version of myself I needed to be dependent upon who I was hanging out with. But just like Buffy realizes in this episode, the mask gets heavy. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with people who will love, support, and respect who you are. For me, the lesson here is to embrace your inner slayer. The part of yourself you find maybe is weird or you're afraid others are going to judge you for. Buffy tried fighting it. She put her foot down. She told Giles that she was no longer going to be responsible for saving the world. But ultimately, she grabbed the stake and saved Willow. And that's our what would Buffy do moment. Stop neglecting or segregating parts of yourself. If you don't feel like you fit in the social norm or don't want to pretend to, that's okay. The right people, your Scoobies, will love the whole you. The Cordelias will walk away, and that's a good thing. Okay, now for some shipping fun. I'm not going to get into who I ship necessarily at this point, but I figure it's a big part of the show and it is always a debatable topic and people get really into it. So I thought it'd be fun to simply call out these moments and kind of analyze them on how they fit with the show and the life lesson of what would Buffy do. For this episode, we had our meet cute with Xander on his skateboard crashing after he saw Buffy for the first time. And then we had our dark mystery man, Angel, awkwardly stalking her in the shadows of an alleyway. Xander sees her simply as the pretty new girl. And while he does find out her truth, he really doesn't understand her calling yet. I think he's certainly very much in like with the masked Buffy. Whereas Angel already knows she's the Slayer, and he's very much aware of what that means for her. It makes me wonder if that's why she's drawn to Angel. Maybe because he sees the part of her that she's trying to hide from everyone else. Or maybe it's because she can sense he's hiding something too, and she wants to learn his truth. My final thought for today is if you're currently exhausting yourself trying to be normal for your mom, your boss, or your friends, stop fighting your destiny. The stake is in your hand for a reason. Use it. Let's take off our masks. What nerdy or weird things do you hide to fit in? Or have hidden in the past before you felt confident enough to let it fly freely? I'd love to share your stories of resilience on the show, so be sure to comment or email. The hardest thing in this world is to live in it. So be brave. Be like Buffy. Please don't forget to send your stories to wwbdstories@gmail.com. I'll see you next time.